What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's fall time. The nights are starting to cool off. Days are getting a little bit cooler. It's still pretty hot here in Alabama. The high is 85 out here on Guntersville right now, so it's still pretty hot, but we're starting to see a bunch of changes. You know, these fish are starting to move from their summer patterns, starting to move, you know, spread out. They're following bait, so you're going to be fishing a lot of bait imitating style techniques, lures, stuff like flukes, topwater, minnows, jerk baits, glide baits. And one bait that you better make sure that you have tied on the deck of your boat is a shallow to mid-depth crankbait. So let's talk about it. Oh, that's a good one. I think I might got two. I got two. I got two bass. I got two bass. That is awesome. Two bass, boys. Oh my gosh. That's a big one. Yes. Let's go. Let's go. Oh my gosh, that really is a big one. Stay down. He's only got one hook. Get up, don't you jump. Yes. All right, guys, you guessed it. We're talking about crankbaits in today's video. Primarily shallow to mid-depth diving crankbaits. And when I think about that type of crankbait, the Rapala DT6 is the first one to come to mind. And the reason for that is because honestly, it's the best on the market, in my opinion, from the experience that I've had. And, you know, I love crankbait fishing. I love power fishing this time of year, breaking down, you know, a bunch of water, covering water, and really trying to imitate these more bait fish patterns, because the fish, you know, it's cooling off. It's fall time. These fish are going to start suspending. They're going to start roaming a lot. They're going to be locking in on these balls of bait, you know, threadfin shad, gizzard shad, blueback herring, whatever type of bait is in your local lake. These fish are really going to start keying in on these big bait balls. And so naturally you're going to want something that imitates a bait fish. And you know, I mentioned it in the intro, jerk baits, glide baits, topwater, minnows, all of that is good. And you can catch fish doing all of that. But there's just something special about being able to pull up on a shallow point, pull up on a riprap bank, a bridge, you know, stuff of that sort, lay downs, and be able to crank up a couple. So like I said, when I think about mid-depth to shallow diving crankbaits, the Rapala DT6 is the one that comes to mind. And I think one of the reasons for this is because this is made out of balsa wood, and there's just something about, you know, fall time, springtime, anytime those water temps are cooling off, or, you know, they're cold and warming up like you have in the springtime, that balsa wood is just going to be a lot more effective, and the fish just seem to like it a lot more, as opposed to more of your plasticky material crankbaits. And it just gives off a different sound, a different vibration, and the balsa just gives it a different action, guys. So the DT6 has a really tight wobble, stays really tight. And what's really important, you know, whatever you're fishing, you're wanting to maintain bottom contact. I like finding rocky areas. You know, I can catch fish on this thing in laydowns and stuff, but I like more rocky areas, riprap banks, wind-blown points, stuff like that. And so you're going to want to find a area that's got a lot of bait fish in it, which typically this time of year is not very hard to find. It's like all the bait in the lake just comes out of the woodwork. Like they've been hard to find all summer, and then boom, they're just there everywhere that you go. And sometimes, you know, there's too much bait. These fish have so much of the live bait, the real stuff, that they're not even going to bother with any of your artificial baits. And what I like to do, you know, like I said earlier, maintain bottom contact. I'm going to want to slow roll that crankbait along the bottom, varying the retrieve on my reel. You know, I'll slow roll it. When I start feeling some stuff, I might burn it, and it really gets that bait to dive down deeper into the rocks. And you know, like paralleling shoreline structure, riprap, chunk rock, stuff like that, paralleling, making those long casts directly parallel to the bank and running it back. That will help you maximize your time out there on the water. If these fish are sitting in about 5 or 6 foot of water, 2 or 3 feet off the bank, you're going to sit your boat right there and just make those parallel casts along the bank, and that's going to keep your bait in the strike zone for longer. And any type of moving bait, especially a crankbait, your casts are going to be really important, really crucial to you getting bit and not getting bit. So, you know, long cast if you're fishing on points and stuff, shorter, more precise, keeping the bait in the strike zone for longer if you're cranking some, you know, riprap bank, creek mouth, bridge, you know, whatever the case may be. But guys, as far as the colors, keep in mind we're talking about the fall fishing, really from September all the way to November, maybe early December. These are going to be the colors that I use. Now, when the water temps start cooling off, getting down into the 50s and upper 40s, I'm really going to swap to those reds, but we'll make a whole different video about that because it's a totally different scenario. So my favorite color is the Helsinki shad, and this is going to be if I'm fishing some clear water or, you know, light stain, any type of threadfin or gizzard shad fishery, the Helsinki shad is going to be my go-to. Now, if the water's a little bit dirtier or there's a bunch of current fishing targeting smallmouth, they really like just the chartreuse, and so that's when I'm going to pick up this parrot color. So like any dirtier water, and in the springtime they like this a lot too, that chartreuse and blueback just really gets them to bite. But so clear water, the Helsinki shad, and then more stain, dirtier water, the parrot color. Honestly, those are the only two colors that I think that you really need. It'll get the job done in any scenario, but one that I keep, and I'll tie it on every now and then, and that is the big shad. So it's just a little bit darker, has some more bluish purplish back hue to it, dark blue belly. So it's just a good color to pick up if you want to show them something just a little bit different. And guys, as far as my equipment setup on this, rod and reel is really important. I like a 7.2 to 7.3 foot medium heavy cranking rod. You've got to have a rod that has a really good bend in the tip. You know, they call it the parabolic bend, where you can just kind of lean into the fish. You don't have to like set the hook, you just lean into them as you're cranking. So you want a rod that's got a very flexible tip so that you can do that. And that's going to prevent you from, you know, breaking off, because if you're sitting here running this crankbait, you're bouncing off some rocks, you know, fraying your line a little bit, and you get a bite and you set the hook, chances are you're either going to bend that treble hook out or you're going to break your line. And so really just sweep in motion whenever you're setting the hook, just smooth sweeping. That's all you need. The rod's going to set the hook for you without having to give it a big old, you know, half-ounce jig hook set. But just leaning into them, but having that parabolic bend in your rod is super crucial. So me personally, I throw a 7.2 medium heavy cranking Jacob Wheeler series ducket rod. This is the OG Jacob Wheeler series rod. They don't make it anymore, but the 2.0 series has a 7-foot cranking rod, and I like that too. But I've just gone back to the OG because this one is the best crankbait rod I've ever put in my hands, and I wish they really sold them. I've got 2 or 3 of them in the garage, you know, stowed up for a rainy day if I ever need them, but I'll always keep this one in the boat for my DT6 setup. And as far as reel, this is a Ducket Paradigm 6/8 to 1 gear ratio, so anywhere in those 6s is really going to be good. And you know, I know a lot of guys that do a 5, you know, like a 5.4 to 1, 5 to 1, something like that. Really just personal preference. I think anything above a 6/8 to 1 gear ratio is going to be too fast, because especially as the water temp's cooling off and you get into that winter time, you really want to be able to slow roll it. But you know, the 6/8 is perfect. You know, you can burn it if you want to. And you can really slow it down if you want to. So really just depends on the day, you know, the fish behavior, whether they want it burning or, you know, slow rolling it. But you know, like I said, keeping bottom contact's really crucial. But so as far as line, I throw 12-pound Berkeley Trilene 100% fluorocarbon. But I mean, you can jump up from 12 to 15 if you want to get that bait to not dive as deep. Say, you know, this is a 6-foot running crankbait. If you want to get it to where it's diving like 4 or 5 foot, go ahead and bump up to that 15 or 17-pound line, which pretty much 100% of the time I'm going to be using the 12-pound fluorocarbon. And the reason for that is if I want that bait to run a little bit higher in the water column, I'm just going to, you know, high stick my rod. I'm going to keep that rod pointed up. That way it doesn't allow that bill to get down to its maximum depth. You know, you can really vary the depth that this bait runs at just by, you know, where your rod tip's pointing. So if you're pointing up, it's going to run higher in the water column than it's designed to, and if you point it all the way down or even have the rod tip down in the water, it's going to really get it down to that maximum depth, and sometimes even more than you know, how deep the bait's designed to actually run. So guys, I'm really looking forward to taking advantage of this crankbait bite that we're gonna have for the next couple months. Super fun, one of my favorite ways to catch them. I know I say that about every technique, but honestly, I just love catching fish. And a crankbait truly is one of the most fun ways to catch them, especially like me personally. I love cranking those riprap banks and just, you know, slow rolling it or giving it a rip up and just rod tip just loading up. And you know, I've caught some really big fish over the years on a DT6, and I know that you will too. If you take some time with it, glue it to your hand this fall, you will catch a bunch of fish, and maybe even the biggest fish of your life. So guys, I want to thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more videos like this. We're doing a lot of teaching on techniques this fall. We're gonna have a lot of time to fish. We got some exciting stuff coming for you guys. So thanks again. We'll see you in the next one. He's barely hooked. He is barely hooked. This one actually is a come here, open up, let's go. 3-pounder, fat.